place, keeping away distance. If we have to go out, stay away from everybody, washing as much as we can, stay away from anybody that may be sick. And again, follow all the other instructions that have been given to us on all over the media and from the government or local governments. So that being said, again, Hurricane H here. Welcome to another show, another series. Yesterday we had the discussion about the sales world and a different piece of the sell process or the selling process. We covered a little bit of the probing, needs assessment, and as well as the features and benefit tie downs. And today, different session, different series. We're going back to the quote series, and this is where we basically talk about a particular famous quote about a particular topic, or a saying that is famous and renowned, and then we'll just deep dive on it, and I'll give a little bit of perspective on my side. And today we're going to talk about leadership and specifically what is leadership. And the quote of the day is, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, do more, and become more, learn more, you are a leader." Again, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. That's a big, piece, and I think that's John Quincy Adams who made that particular quote. And there are very similar quotes out there about leadership. I mean, there's tons of them, and if you go to our website, actually, there is a motivational, inspirational, section under the home button or the drop, menu, and I try to plug in as many of those as possible. So hey, I mean, you can Google them, but if you're on our site, you will be those. And those are things that I personally use to motivate myself, inspire myself, and any teams and fellow workers and colleagues that I work with. So again, the concept of leadership, right? So typically, what is a leader? And it's there's a lot of conversation about leadership, and a lot of us really out there may think that we're leaders, or we actually have their own perception and perspective on what a leader should be. And there's also confusion between leadership and managing and being a boss and things like that. And not everybody's technically a leader. So we'll dissect that today and kind of break it down a little bit further and just define some of the traits and attributes to what really constitutes an actual leader. What is leading? What is a manager, for example, versus a leader? What is a boss versus a leader? Because oftentimes we do think that when you have a position, a title, you are the boss, and that's automatically makes you a leader. You could be a boss, but you might not necessarily be a leader, and we're gonna break that down today. So in the next hour, we'll try to kind of go step by step, and see how we can just dissect that. So again, in the quote, it says, "Your actions inspire others to dream more." One. So dreaming, and I had the previous session in the quote we talked about success and dreaming of success and how to actually go behind after your success and your targets and your goals. And it gets you to leaders will get you to learn more, will get you to do more and want to be more, want to become more. And also, what would be some of the mission of any true leader? It ultimately is driving success and driving teams and followers to success. And actually, we have leaders in that drive people in the wrong way, in wars and things like that. That mean, just drive people crazy to die. But nevertheless, it's a style of leadership, and people actually get inspired by them, no matter what the reason, no matter what the actual concept behind it. Even if it's wrong, some people rally around it because of their capacity to actually get people to follow them, right? But before we go there, so let's talk about leadership. So is it, being a boss, or is it beyond? Is it the same? Again, maybe not, maybe yes, we don't know. So, but let's talk about, are we all leaders? And, what makes, more, specific people leaders versus not for the rest of us, right? Or, is there any formula, a magic formula to become a leader? And we're going to kind of cover these things as we go, in this particular session. But first thing is, sometimes you'll see, leadership, in action. You see leadership in decision making. You see leadership in a lot of how the person that is actually in the role of leadership driving everybody that's around them. So there's a lot of stuff that actually goes to build that. Leaders are unique in a way. They kind of mesmerize others. They drive them to follow their lead, their guidance, their vision. Leaders are visionary. That's one of the main things that leader has to have is vision. And again, when we talked about the quote the other day, and we talked about some of the visionaries and my role model, my first employer, Walt Disney World, and the man, the one and the only Walt Disney himself. That was a visionary, and he was a leader. We have so many leaders today that we know of in recent history, in past history. Some leaders are religious leaders, some are political leaders, some of them are government leaders, some of them are business leaders, some of them are just regular leaders, and there are different types how people become leaders. And I have a tendency, I mentioned this in previous talks and previous shows, to watch a lot of movies, and not just because I like to watch movies for fun, I enjoy them, but I also have a different look on movies. I don't just watch movies because the action and all the good stuff. That's just entertainment. But every movie has an actual scenario, has a story, and or multiple stories within that movie in that script. And I try to deep dive in it, focus on it, and analyze it, and get the message that's behind the actual story, behind the actual theatricals. And believe it or not, a lot of movies are designed to almost like to convey messages, if anything else. And some of the movies are designed actually as inspirational, and we've seen quite a few of those over the years. And personally, I actually use movies in trainings. So when sometimes people spend time in a conference room with their team, just talking and going over an agenda and a PowerPoint and talking about stuff, and maybe redundancies happen over every other week, every other 2 week, how often you meet with your team. I do it differently. So I use these types of things. So I really actually have taken teams to the movies. I've actually projected movies in the office, and things like that. And basically, I select movies that have content that is gonna, show the team, certain characteristics and attributes and traits. And then what we do usually at the end. Now, if you're watching this, you're a trainer, your motivational speaker, whatever the case may be, you might have your own style, you might have your own, tricks. This is just another trick. Some people may even use it, other than me. Obviously, this is not unique to me. But I kind of came up with that on, nobody told me about it. I actually just always saw those movies, and, and I've always watched the movies, and I've analyzed them. It's like, wow, what would I have done if I were, this person or the other person in this character versus this character, especially, war movies, strategy movies, disaster movies. That's kind of like the biggest one, because actually that's when people really see themselves in real lifestyle situations, and how they behave, how they react to things. Are they taking stands, are they like just like losing it, things like that. So some of these things in trainings, in motivational trainings, and decision making, especially for management, and above, we do these things, and it does actually break down a little bit. And then at the end of any movie, I would go in and start, we'll have a discussion, and like so what would you have done if you were character A, character B, and so on and so forth. What situation, what line, what phrase did you get out of that movie, and things like that. And believe it or not, as far as my experience has been, anyone that actually attended some of these sessions, not only was entertained, but also had a good time, and were able to see things that differently. Like you see, even us, when we watch a movie, if you watch it the first time, you might not see it the same way if you watch it a second or third time. But if you take it from a spin and start looking deeper in the movie, you'll see. Some of the movies are, for example, Miracle, which is the hockey, championship. With that was like a very, very sports like movie, but it's really strategy, motivational leadership, coaching, mentoring, that kind of thing. One of the movies actually projected with a team, last year was Battle of the Year, which is it's a hip hop breakdance and b-boy movie. Some people will look at me like, really? If you watch it, you know what I'm talking about. It's really about how to take a bunch of people that don't have anything in common and put them in a team. So this is where leadership comes in. Is if you're in business or in a community, whatever you are, even in the crisis that we have today, we're watching a lot of news, we're watching a lot of governors, we're watching a lot of politicians, a lot of different agencies, and you can observe the differences in styles and leadership and how they actually operate. Each one of those have their own style, their own, approach, and some are really genuine, as we said before, and they can, convey the message, really rally people, get them excited. Some of them are just, they're out there scrambling. So again, no judgment on anyone, but really in crisis, sometimes you see what the leadership, traits are and how people step up their game and really rise to the occasion. And that's really the key here in leadership. Many people may not even be in a leadership role, and ultimately something happened and a situation occurs where no one knows what to do, and all you see is someone always, takes that leap forward and takes charge. That's kind of like, where that a person is born leadership, born, leader. They just walk in there like, okay, let's get this done, all right, and move on. Some people will always wait, and that's actually sometimes the concept of life is unique, because if you look at around the whole world, there are few leaders and a lot of followers. Not because these other followers are less valuable humans or anything, no. Just that because most of the people are kind of like, they'd rather be on the back end and follow somebody else than be the ones to making decision. Decision making is one of the biggest things in business and life. And, because you have to live with your decisions, you have to be accountable for them. And when you move to that level and you just step forward and make that decision and be decisive and things like that, people may not want to have that responsibility. It's too much. It's overwhelming. It's crazy. People sometimes have jobs where they have a leadership role, but they're not leaders. So they actually boss people around. And we're going to talk about those differences in a minute. But really, you have less leaders or fewer leaders, a lot of followers, not because they lack, the capabilities, but because they don't even entertain that they might have the capabilities. But some people, by default, they have it. It's actually, innate in them. It's like a natural piece. They come up, and they're just natural born leaders. You put them in any situation, doesn't matter where, in the woods, at sea, a tragic, event, whatever, and they tend to actually just get things done and just be ahead of everyone, make moves, and people will just basically rally behind them and follow them. Now, not every leader is also a successful leader, because sometimes people may not follow you because you just happen to be at the lead. Being a lead, again, does not make you a leader. But really, the ability to get people around you, to get people and command respect, with them and have them follow your lead, as we say, it's not easy. And that's also built on trust. And they need to see through you. They need to see that you are really who you are claiming to be as a leader. All right. So, there are a lot of leaders out in this world. Like I said, politicians, war generals. General Patton, was one of the, had so many quotes on leadership and things like that. Some business entrepreneurs, we have a lot of them in the recent, again, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, but what they have in common is also the vision, as I said earlier, visionaries, and they take things from nothing, concepts, they create concepts, they're always ahead of the curve, they always like thinking the next step, what can we do to make this world better? And they do, actually they do contribute and then make things happen. And that's actually what makes a difference. You can put someone, I think in one of the sessions I mentioned, when I got my first manager job and I was sitting in my cubicle and I sat down, I'm like, so what's next? What are you gonna do now? Like, well, you got the job, gotta get it done. And that's it. So now, what would be next steps to do? I have to take charge. I have to make it. One of my mentors, and he will be in one of our shows, hopefully soon. One time, we were having a conversation, and he said, he gave me the quote of, if you lead, you're in charge. If you're in charge, you're in a lead, or you lead. So really, the concept that's clear, right? If you're in charge, you lead. Or if you're leading, you're in charge. You got to make things happen. But a lot of people are afraid of that. That's like big. Most people will not want to take that step. And sometimes you go to events and things like that, and someone what are we gonna do? And you'll see people like everybody's looking at each other. That's very typical, right? And because no one's like they always wait for the next one to make the move. Oh, thank God somebody make that move, right? But that's the thing. You just have to be there. And some of the ways to identify some of these folks that are leaders, like I said, you can be in a business. the actual person in charge, leader or boss, doesn't matter here in this particular scenario, they happen to be in a leave, medical leave, for example. No one is taking charge of this. Or a position is vacant and no one is really taking. Somebody steps out to the plate. And that's when they can show. And sometimes I use this, and I've had people succeed and fail in this, where I give people a shot. Okay, so there's a position. Why don't you test yourself? Let me see what you can do. And they either make it or break it, but you give them a shot, right? And that's kind of like, something that you develop as a leader, to do that. Now, I do see myself as a leader, so if you listen to me, don't think that this guy is like just talking about this. I have been leading teams for the last over 20 years, and rather successfully, and I've actually delivered a lot of leaders. And again, if you're in leadership, and one amazing thing, if you cannot possibly claim yourself to be a leader if you do not empower and create additional leaders, it's not just lead people, but generate more leaders just like you or better than you. And some of them actually, literally in my career path in my industry, have actually surpassed my ranking and became at the highest level, which, believe it or not, I had to sometimes even report to some of those people that I actually trained and mentored, in their early stages. But that's okay. That's a pride. The fact that actually I was able to contribute to their learning and to contribute to their, leadership skills and build them up to a way where they can actually move to the next level. That was actually, for me, it's a successful, thing. And, it's a pleasure and a satisfaction. So that's important. So there's a lot of things with leadership. I mean, we can talk. I mean, there are shows and books and, there's this tremendous training out there about leaders and leadership. But again, vision, honesty, integrity, the ability to get people to actually rally and follow your lead, follow your stuff. But they have to believe in you. They have to believe in your mission, not just what you saw. They can talk, they can see you. And you don't just earn that. It's something that you earn. I mean, you just don't get it. You have to earn it. It takes time. When I join companies, in a leadership role, and basically I'm given teams, right? They don't know me. They heard about me, now they meet me. And so what's the next step? The first thing I have to work on is how to get them to first know me, credibility, as we said in the when you deal with customers, same concept, and to build that. But they can hear my resume, they can hear about me, they can even watch this, whatever the case may be, but really seeing me in action, being with me in the trenches, working with me is what it is. And that's what makes, how do you take them? I've had the opportunity to actually had people in my teams that said, I've had people before you in the same role, but I did not learn anything from them. Now, I'm not bashing anybody here, but the fact is that's not my talk, my saying. It's those people are saying. Now they're not smoking, air here. It's actually, that's the general, because I've seen them, grow in their position. I've seen them, really succeed and become better at what they do. Because another thing is, as a leader, you have knowledge, right? So you are at the helm because of your ranking, because of your expertise and experience. You're in charge, but you're in charge of a team. So that's the other thing, the word team, and we're going to dissect that in a minute. We need to focus on what team is, because that is important. A lot of people lose track of what a team concept is. And a lot of people with roles in leadership, or with roles as bosses and managers, they tend to I got this. I'm the number one. These people work for me. No. So I can tell you this personally and publicly, no one ever worked for me. I actually worked for my teams, because as a leader, you work for your team. You work with them and for them, because there are attributes, there are things, that are expectations from a leader to their, followers and to their teams, is that they have to be there for them, to support them, to show them, to guide them, to mold them, to empower them, to work with them, to guide them, to motivate them, to inspire them. Those are things. Now, you are really working for them, not the other way around. Bosses do the opposite, really. They just, boss people around. Dude, let's do it together. And there is nothing actually in my world, in the sales world, marketing, operations, when I'm in a company with a team, there's nothing that my team does I cannot do, or I have not done, or I don't know how to do. And that's the other thing. So knowledge is key, when you actually enroll leadership, or you want to aspire to be a leader, you want to know your stuff. I've said that before. Knowledge is key. You have to know your stuff, whether you're presenting, whether you're actually managing, whether you're leading, whether you're putting strategy together. If you're not good at it, people are going to see through you, and people will not follow you if you're really not successful or good, because they're going to see, they're like, why am I going to follow this person? He doesn't even know what they're doing, right? So that's important, right? So it's really, the formula here is, you want to be that, icon, someone that people will, literally like the lights and all the stuff gets around it because they want to get warm, right? So, or the fire, everybody gets drawn to it to get nice warm. So you basically there for them, like you also light up the pad for them, because sometimes people are scrambling, they just don't know how to operate, they don't know how to manage, they don't know how to proceed. And you as a leader, your role is to actually keep them motivated, give them a tap on the shoulder, know your staff, also know your team, understand everybody's different, their limitations, and then work with them. Take somebody that is at a medium level and bring them to the higher level, someone that has at the highest level, and work with your team. Show them, teach them, educate them, give them the knowledge, the expertise. You're not taking the knowledge with you. The knowledge that you have, and especially if you're in leadership, you're always going to learn and learn and learn. But the more you learn, the more you want to give that knowledge to the next generation, to people around you. It doesn't mean the generation of age here, but generation of leadership. So, but the fact of the matter, knowledge is to be given, not to be kept. I mean, we're ultimately all gonna retire from what we do, and even sometimes from life, as we age, or we just depart this world. But your knowledge stays behind. I mentioned Steve Jobs right now as a few minutes ago. He is no longer with us, but his vision, his leadership has gotten the world to a different place, right? I am actually working with an iPhone, with an iPad, with the Mac. Those are technologies that he's actually worked with and brought into us, and he's always been innovative. That's the other. Innovative is a key word, from leadership, angles. You have to have the innovation, and that's creative minds. You have to always be thinking, what else, how can I do it better, and think about more stuff. And nobody's going to tell you. If you're a leader, you don't wait for someone to tell you. You just know what needs to be done. Somebody says, okay, we have a situation. You're a leader, you're going to jump in and you start thinking what we can do. And sometimes in a leadership role, you don't want to wait, until you have everything. You start and you work. Now, of course, you have to be able to plan in advance. You have to have a strategy. I use chess as an actual, concept, because chess is, you always have to look at, moves, versus your opponent. But guess what? If you're really good at strategy and stuff, you want to be 5 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead if you have to, okay? You want to not just look at the next move, you look 10 moves ahead. And sometimes people don't see that. Like, they're thinking here and you're actually like, literally on the other side of this room, right? So that's the concept. As a leader, your mind is working in a different space. It's a different formula. It's a different pace. The joke about my name, Hurricane H, was that when I joined my last company, I kind of shifted a little bit things, and I was moving at a very, very fast pace, and changing things around, that my team was like, whoa. I was like, Harrigan. Even another one name that they gave me was Tasmanian Devil. I mean, I was really just, making things, moving very fast. But really, it's not about, again, I'm sharing some of my personal experiences and my personal, things that I use in my trainings from my teams. And hopefully anyone that can listen to these, shows or watch these shows, take that, for what it is and apply it. If you can learn one thing from what I say in all my chapters, in all my sessions, that's actually great, because at the end of the day, we all listen to a lot of things, and sometimes it's known, if you can listen to the whole hour, you may retain, 7%, 5%. The good news about some of these shows, they're here for you. They're recorded, they're not going anywhere. You can get them, you can catch them, you can replay them, you can download them. And not just from me, from anyone that has this type of, approach, and anyone has these types of educational sessions, or at least, inspirational, motivational, classes or courses or shows. Okay, so that's important. So again, now we talked a little bit about the leadership in general and some of the things, and we're gonna, break it down a little bit further. But before then, so the question that's always there, what is the difference between a leader and manager? Is a manager a leader? Is a leader a manager? Well, some managers are leader, but not all leaders. Some leaders are managers. Because managing is really a process, right? It's a function. It's a job. You can do it. I can give you, a list of things, chores and activities and tasks that you can do, and I tell you, manage this process, and you're going to manage it, right? But, that doesn't mean you're going to lead. You can literally just, I can, believe it or not, and I don't take this the wrong way, sometimes you can give the task. It's just robotic. It's A, B, C, D. You follow them by the book, step by step, and it's done. The jobs are done. that doesn't mean leadership. It just means that you're doing. And also sometimes you have a position. And a lot of people get into a role of a management, and that's really when leadership start kind of highlighting themselves versus not. And because you have a job, they give you a title that's attached to the job. You have a command over a unit, over an army, over a division, over a team. Doesn't matter what level of management you are, from supervisor up. Some people take it like, I got this, I got power, I got authority. I get to do and tell people what to do, and really point the finger and just scream and rant and stuff like that. They get into a power trip. Wrong, 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 and that's exactly what that is. Those are bosses. They do not, step up to the rank of managers. So, again, one of my mentors, same mentor, a great sales leader, and a good friend, and one of my ex-bosses, we were discussing this, and I used that with him, and we used it in interviews. What is the scale of a leader? So if you take a scale of a manager from 0 to 10, where does a leader, fall in there? Most people say, well, 5, 6, 7. Nowhere. Actually, a leader, is nowhere in actual the manager, and vice versa. A leader is beyond that. It's not the functionality of the manager. It's something that is a characteristic. It's something that is, the personality. It's the attribute. It's that drive. It's that vision. It's that motivational personality. It's the fact that people would actually jump to come and work for you. People move from state to work with you. Okay, you tell people, go to another place, and they'll stay with you because you'll be there for them. That's the other thing. When you're a leader, your team comes first. It's not I. There's no I in team, right? There is TEAM. Okay, and that is the team, not you. All right. So when you work, there is we. As a leader, it's not about you. It's about how the team works when you talk. And again, in that movie I mentioned earlier about Battle of the Year, the breakdance movie, and it's on, I think, Google. You can download it, watch it. But if you watch that, when the coach of this team, is gonna get them, rallied and get them together, he was trying to get that. He got them to do we so much that if someone goes, to the bathroom, when he came back, he says, we had to go to the bathroom. All right. So a little levity there, but really it's that concept. It's about driving the we versus the I, when we do things. And I actually refer a lot of things to we, although this is just my show, but I say we, because it's actually something that I built in my character and my personality, that always it's about us, not about me. Okay. And we get more by team than actually by individual. You cannot, now you're an individual contributor even as a leader, but you work with your team, and your team is the one that helps you succeed. And there is no leader out there that can tell you this, that they succeeded because of themselves. If they said that, they're full of air, because that's not true. They can never succeed on. Nobody succeeds because of themselves. You succeed because of the people that you surround with, the people that you train, the people that you empower, the people you encourage, you motivate, you inspire, you push, and you get, to help you succeed. Remember I said, we work for our teams and they don't work for us. We work as a team. We work in unison. We work as a unit. We work as an actual, just like a beehive. Everybody has a function. We all have functions, but we work together towards a common goal. And when we do, we succeed. If you don't, and if you think that it's all the success is you, and you're the one that is gonna it happened because of me, because I am the best thing that ever happened. No, then you're wrong, and that's actually where you have a little bit of an ego. Ego doesn't fly with you. Eventually, you'll fail, and people will not trust you. People will not follow you. People will actually despise you, and they're and they might follow you because you have control, because they need the job, because whatever the case. But at the first opportunity, they're gonna quit. There's a lot of articles and things that always say, and even statements and sayings that say people don't leave jobs, they leave leaders, and people also don't go to jobs, they follow leaders. So the concept really, if you are good and you can bring people together, and I can tell you this from this forum, I and some of my friends and colleagues and team mates that I've worked with over the years, We are friends still today, and some of them still call me, and they would love to have the opportunity to work, and I would love to have the opportunity to work with them because that's what it is. You build a team, you build a family, you work together, and you're in it for good, bad, worse. Of course, as a leader, you don't accept mediocrity, you don't accept failure, although failure is part of the deal, and yes, you fail and you move on. And, sometimes you have no choice. Things not always going to be 100%, but you want to be at 99% if you can. There's no such thing as perfection, but you try to, get there. You get as close as you can. But as a leader, you want to build your team. So a leader versus a manager, big difference. Big difference. So management, management. That's the career, a job, a position. Leadership is action, not position. It's actually a drive. It's really it's unique on its own because it's a bunch of stuff. Okay, but it has nothing to do with the functions. It has to do with the character of that particular individual. It has to do with their personality, their drive, their way of doing things. You put them in any situation, they'll be the first one to jump in. They don't wait for people. Hey, why don't you test that? They're actually the first one to do it, and they will dabble with it. They will make it work, and someone will follow them. And people will see that they're willing to jump how high they'll jump with you. Even if it's wrong. As I said, we've had historic leaders that actually drove nations into war and things like that, and people followed them for no reason. But they did because there were motivation. Whatever the case, they set up a set of things that people and values that people accepted, and they followed through. In business, in personal lives, you might be in a family, and you can be a leader in your own family. You could be with your friends and become a leader, in your own little world. It doesn't matter. It's really the fact that you take action, you take initiative, you just take that first step. Of course, with thinking and stuff, and sometimes you just leap forward and just you don't just drive people over the cliff. It has to be a calculated, step and a calculated strategic move and things like that. But at the end of the day, that's what's driving you. So if you're a leader, you need to be able to get people. First of all, you need to know your stuff. As I said, that's key. Because people will not, accept you if you don't have the stuff and then lead the team. Especially in our world of sales, for example, if you don't have the expertise in sales and marketing together and understanding strategy and all the stuff and understanding the actual business, you have no business really leading a sales team. Because you can do it, but you'll just clash. Because you're talking two different languages. You're going about two different formulas, and the salespeople work differently. Their mindset is different, and you're not going to be able to generate. Same thing. If you actually run an IT division, I cannot run an IT division. That's a different unit. I don't understand. If you actually in a nursing space or medical space, that's different. So the leader has to know that particular space better to be able to get them. But there's people that have similar roles, but not all of them are leaders. Maybe one or two in a whole bunch, maybe actually a true leader in those roles. And sometimes people are put in position for other reasons. They have the highest education, they have this, that doesn't make them leaders. They might have some experience that doesn't make them leaders. It's other characteristics that makes them leaders. Now, all the other stuff is great when you have it and you have the traits and the attributes and the characteristics of a leader, and then you even a much, much better leader and actually inspiration to others. Also, leadership is a calling, it's a character, as I said. Leaders kind of sometimes just have it in them. It's not something that you even plan. It's you have something that drives you. You just feel the need that you want to take action. You literally get put in the situation, and you know what? I got this, and you move, and you'll see it. You'll be in the same space, and I've seen this happen where a business is suffering, and a leader is absent, or at least the management is no longer there, and the staff they don't know what to do. And you'll find always one that actually takes that initiative. Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. This is what we will be doing. This is what we can do. And so we'll talk about when we're interacting with teams, how we do the stuff. Now, there's different leadership styles, okay? And there's some what we call transformational leadership theory, which is basically somebody that transforms, they have a style about it, right? There's events, that sometimes happen, or great event theory, where there are things that happen that make, a scenario where someone just becomes a leader or steps up to the plate. And there is the one, as I said, the trait theory, which is basically it's innate, it's you, it's just your character. So those are some of the things. And I apologize, I have a lot of light in my eyes here. So there's that whole thing about leaders. Some people, have that authoritarian type of approach, so they want to like lead with power, with very tasks, just do the job, but there's no personal touch. They don't work with the teams. They just basically delegate. Here's the job. If you don't do this, you're a reprimand. Eh, Team leader is someone that's really there in the trenches with the team, someone that works with their team. They actually really day in, day out with them. They work hard with them. They actually, always training and mentoring and coaching the stuff. Get people involved in the process, not just tell them what to do or like hide them from meetings. Invite them to meetings. Don't be afraid that someone's gonna jump on your job, because if you are, you're not a true leader. I'm never afraid that actually, I want the next people on my team to actually step up to play and eventually even take my role. It's okay. Like I said in one session, if they are good to do that, that means we all succeed, we all grow. It's okay. But you want to be able, don't be afraid and intimidated about someone because they're going to take your role, or, but your job is to mentor them, to coach them, to train them and teach them and educate them and show them how, your know-how, your knowledge is not for you to keep, is to show them. But a lot of people will shy away from that, and they're not in a team. They just, keep them isolated, keep them like they don't invite them. You're on a need to know basis. And that's it. No, you cannot have a need to know basis. You want to be part of that. You want to show them. Some people are basically, they have great relationship, but there's no action, there's no task. Some people are really, they have nothing. They're very, very impoverished. They have no relationship, there's no task. They're just in the title. They have a position, and but nothing gets happen. You don't see them, they're absentees. They're literally missing in action. Not good. You want to be a leader, you're the first one. I actually refer to myself as a field general in my field. I spend more time in the field than I spend in actually in office. When I'm in the office, I go crazy. Now, of course, in the higher leadership roles that you actually would take, you do have to have some presence in the corporate space, and you have meetings, strategies, decision making, things like that, and you have to do these things. But, your team is only as good as if they see you there with them in the trenches and the respect there. And you're not there to watch them and actually be doing the policing. You're there to support them morally and physically if they need to. You work with them. They're doing the job. You actually helping them, maybe identify customers, listening to them, giving them tweaks here, tweaks there, helping them, guiding them, showing them maybe we could have, if I were you, this is what I would have done, as opposed to like, well, you need to do it this way. You did it wrong. No, that's the other thing, is how you speak to your team, how to work with your team. Those are all different things that make a leader versus no leader. A boss is a boss. They're just gonna boss you around, and they're just gonna think that they have the authority. And I've seen it. Some people, and they just get a little bit of a nudge in basically their ranking, and they become like, forget about it. They think that the world is theirs. No, and there are people that are in the president, and CEO levels, and they're the most, what do you call it, personable, and approaching. And I've actually seen some CEOs that actually really make it their actually, personal task to actually mingle with people, spend time with people at all levels. Doesn't matter what your role in an enterprise, they're with you, they test with you, they work with you and things like that. And that's true leadership. You don't just get a role and then everybody else, you don't care about your team. You're there with your team. If your team is suffering, you're suffering. Okay? If like, well, I don't care. That's not my job. If your team, you have to be concerned about your team. If their physical, aspect is something's wrong with it, you want to help them. If their moral, campus and everything, is shaky, that's not good. You want to be there for them. If their family issues, you want to be there for them. To a degree, obviously there are limits to what you can do and how you can do it, but it's your job, as a leader to gauge those things and balance it up and be there for your team. All right. So again, you have to be visionary. So another characteristic, leaders are typically smart and intelligent, but that's something that helps them in terms of the business, whatever they're doing. Honesty, because and that's integrity. I mean, when you're honest, people believe in you. You're not phony. You're not just a flyby. As I had stated in a different session, you're confident. They see you. You have the drive. You're not really like backseat driver. You actually upfront working, and you're driving people, you're motivating, and also you're creative. You're always thinking like how we can do things, process improvement, let's do things better, let's try this, let's try the other thing, and you always, there is no. For example, in my world, and the people that know me, there's no such thing as we have a situation and oops, we have a situation, that's gonna happen. If you're in business, situations are gonna happen. Things happen, and I would literally state it. Shit happens, in real life, and you cannot change that. Not every day is a peachy day. Not every day is gonna be a great day. But you make sure that you do the most. And if somebody comes in with the situation, let's not dwell about, oh my God, what happened and who's to blame, blah blah blah. You gotta be up there. You gotta elevate yourself beyond that. My good mentor had opened the doors to me to one of the very good books that I've read, and I always recommend this book, and I actually use it in trainings, The Oz Principle. Google it up, the Oz, like the Wizard of Oz Principle. Definitely a great book. It's about accountability. It's about being elevated, above the line versus below the line. Always putting blame on others. It's really see it, own it, do it, solve it, do it, do it, solve it. The key is, you want to be able to take charge and be accountable and not always look at, who to blame and why it happened. You can blame everyone, but you're not going to change that. You can learn from that and actually identify why it happened and really put the parameters and the metrics to avoid it from happening again or to prevent it from happening again. But you got to do it right. You have to be also courageous. And if you're afraid and you're scared, it's like you have to be bold and really like just out there. You want to try things. You want to try and error is okay. It gets you places. Again, I give the example of this studio, this channel. It's a bold move. I'm okay with it. If this is not for me to become a millionaire, but really the concept is, I wanted to do this for a long time and never had, I didn't have a chance to do it. I was prepared for it. It took me some time, but I'm here and it will stay here. This is not going anywhere. And even though I do my regular job, this is going to continue. It's going to just keep me motivated, keep me all balanced, and keeps me like really going, over to the next level, And, there's a lot of stuff in my mind, like I had mentioned before about, the success piece about going after your goals and your targets. Whatever you set to go, you go for it. But you have to be courageous. You cannot be afraid and always like, oh my God, what happens if this happens? What happens, you will learn. You don't achieve your goal, you will have achieved a different goal, which means you learned something from that move, and now you have something else that you go. And everything you go for, you're going to learn something from that you can apply at a later time. No loss there. There is no loss in everything. Everything we do is a learning experience. Everything you do in life is going to get you stronger this time. And everything happens for a reason. There's no coincidence. So at the end of the day, you would think really 3 years, 5 years later, and you'll be like, wow, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't have gotten this one done. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't have been introduced to this person. If I was not introduced to this person, I wouldn't have been at this job, and so on and so forth. I can give you stories about my personal life, even the lifestyle that I've had in terms of insurance and how I got into it was just like I met one person, introduced me to another, and I went to this one, and this is this, and a lot of things happen. And one day I'll go over that story, but to show you like everything is connected, again. So going back to the leadership, you are the driver. You are the one that people are going to look up to. If you don't have the drive, if you don't have that, you don't have that energy, the enthusiasm, the actual charisma, all of this together makes you, where people look at you like, I want to be you. I want to follow this person no matter what. I want to work for this person. I actually get this today. We would love to have you back as our, in our lead in our team. Because again, I've never made my teams feel like I'm the boss. I hate that word, and I joke about it with my bosses, as a joke, but to elevate them. But really, the concept of boss, it doesn't exist. At the end of the day, remember I said, everyone out there works for themselves. If there is anybody that you're the boss for, is yourself. Other than that, you don't boss people around, and nobody's your boss. You work with people, whether you work with them as the leaders or you work with them as your team. Either way, they're team members. So if you have true leadership, they're your team members. They will treat you the same. Actually, if they're true leaders, they'll exactly apply the same concepts. You will never feel that actually my last boss, as a joke, my last leader, a good friend, that's how I felt. I never felt that she was my boss. She never gave us the actual feeling that she is the boss. She gave us the opportunity that she is part of the team. And she was there with us every minute. Everything, every concern. If we ache, she aches. Okay? That's leadership. Same thing here. My team, I'm there with them. I'm the first one there, in the battle for them. And I'll take one for the team. And as a leader, you have to take one for the team. You can't just say, selfish and throw somebody a scapegoat. No scapegoats. If you're true leaders, you don't just sacrifice people because of pressure. A true leader never sacrifices people. True leader actually, is accountable and understand that there are things, there are factors, and the factors are facts. You cannot change those, and understand that there are things and decisions that may happen in the past that can impact the future. Again, past is basically the history has a definition is the understanding of the past to understand. I mean, the study of the past to understand the present and predict the future. So again, it's all linked in. If you are a true leader, you cannot, just lead, by default and expect things to happen without, having a good report. Putting a strategy in place is great. You have to have those things, but you have to link all of it. It's all one piece, and again, I always say this, everything I'm going to talk about at the end of the day, think about a puzzle, and there are different pieces to it. All of them together, put in the right order, gives you the beautiful picture that you see once the puzzle is complete. And that's actually what makes the difference. So if you're a leader, you need to have those. So qualities are ambition, caring. That's very important. You have to care about your crew. You have to care about your team. You have to care about everything that affects them. If it affects them, it's going to affect you. And you cannot be like savage, like, well, I don't care. It's not my problem. Sometimes you have to support your team. Even, I've seen it financially. At least be there for the team. Some people may go through different phases, different things, medical, family issues, whatever. Be confident. That's a big thing. People see confidence in you. They're gonna like really, revere you and believe that you are, a different, someone that they can actually, follow. Be convincing. People, if you're not convincing enough, people are not gonna like whatever. I've had actually an example, and quickly, I've had someone, a good, teammate, who was actually having his wedding, and we were called into a meeting, in an emergency meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, the day of his wedding. And believe it or not, he actually made it to that meeting, despite the fact that it was his wedding day. The wedding obviously was later on that night, but he did it for me. He was off. I asked him, please, can you help us? And we want everybody because this is important. And he actually made the leap. Not because I forced him to, or because I reprimanded him, because I threatened him. He actually did it because I've always been there for him. And for the minute that you need them to be there for you, they're going to come for you. They're going to be there for you. As opposed to, if you're always, the one that's pushing them away and, they hate your guts, whatever the case may be, they're never going to support you. And the first opportunity they have to put you down, to actually get you out, to put you in trouble, they're going to just bail on you and you're it. You don't want to be that way. You want to be the one that actually, if you're in danger, they're going to rally behind you and protect you. Not the ones the other way around. You're going to be standing in front of, trouble, and they're just going to walk about, oops. You don't want to be that. They're not going to throw you to the wolves. If you're a true leader, your people are going to stand by you, and they're going to fight as a pack with you. So curious, decisive. Decision making is a big thing. So I give the example of these movies, especially in war movies. There's so many of them. But decision making is a big thing, and people, vary how they see decision making. Some people have the drive, and they don't get like, that's the other thing. If you're scared, you make the wrong moves. Don't be scared. Scary, being afraid doesn't do anything. We all have a natural fear in us, but you got to put that aside. You have to think, logically what we can do and get the best potential outcome in any situation. There's always a best potential outcome. It's not necessarily the most, plausible scenario, the best, but you'll evaluate all options, and the one that has the best outcome, you take, and that's it. There is that sometimes that's all you have. You can only go 90%. You can't go 100%. Well, you're not going to make 100%, but let's make the 90%. Take what you can. You have to be empathy. You have to know and feel for people. You have to be ethical. Ethics, big thing. You cannot be dishonest and things like that, and people you expect people to follow you and people to respect you. Nothing. A leader is respected. Commands respect, not fear. You don't get people to follow you. You have to be innovative, as I said, always creative, always find a new thing. That's what's going to get you to the next level and bring, if you're running a division, an enterprise, a company as a CEO, innovative, like innovations, and creation and creativity, just like I said, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, so many others, these are, good examples for all of us, to actually, follow suit, and you can see it. You have to be persistent. Not everything happens on time. So, consistent and persistent, as I said, for your success and your dreams, the same thing. Leadership is just that. It drives those. Responsible and accountable. Accountability is a key element. You have to be very, above, the actual, it's not my job, it's not my problem, it's their problem. No. You're a leader. You're in charge. It doesn't matter who did what. If they did it on your watch, you were responsible for it, and something happened because you were not part of the team, you were not there. And somebody made the decision. Maybe they're the leaders because they took, upon themselves to make a move. You want to be involved in everything, yet you want to empower people. You have to give them autonomy, give them the room to play and to work. And another of my good leaders and good friends, he was our head of the division. I mean, great. And I'm talking about the whole, Medicare division. He was, one of the best, leaders also I've had in my career. And, because you don't feel, and he will tell you what it is. He will drive you. He knows that, he knows his team. He understands everybody, what ticks any one of us, and makes you and drives you to do more. You want to do more for them. And frankly, sometimes in companies, you want to walk away from a company, and the reason that you stay is because you do believe in that person. I give a good example. In 2017, the company I worked for closed for financial reasons. They decided to make a shutdown, so the whole team was out. And the first thing I did, as I was the chief sales officer, there was no way for me to get a job immediately. That's just doesn't happen. The higher you go, things will drop dead for you for a minute, because there are only a few roles, and again, you just have to find the right time. It's all about timing. And so the first thing I did, and it's actually verifiable, you can go to LinkedIn and check it out. I actually posted that I have a great team, and please, anyone that has an opening, please have my team, take my team. They're great people, they need a home. And you know what? 90% of those people did get a job, in less than a month. All right. So it's not about you. And I wound up well. I didn't suffer. Everything was good for me. I moved on, and life is, but it's about your team. Your team comes first. If I had to stand in front of my superiors and talk to them about, something that I don't feel right for my team, and I have my best friend, I refer to him a lot of times, as double impact with me, and I don't name them because once they're on the show, I'll introduce them. But the fact of the matter, when, him and I worked, he would fight anyone for his team. I would fight anyone for my team. We work for our teams, and we are the staff. Now, of course, if they do something wrong, we don't stand by wrong. But if they're doing their job, we're doing our job. So that's the most important piece. But, you want to support them, and you want to be there for them. You know what I mean? Again, even the word leadership, loyalty, empathy, accountability, and I'm reading this: duty, determination, energy, encouragement for E, respectable, humble, selflessness. It's not about, you. It's really about the team. It's about all of us. Honorable, humble, again, integrity, innovation, passionate about their work. Those are all the things. So when you look at the acronym leadership, those are some of the things that you actually can, attribute to it. You must build, leadership actually has to be built on trust and confidence. People have to trust you. If there is no trust, you're never going to lead anybody. All right, that's important. So again, I'm just trying to move a little faster because we only have an hour. But I hope that in this particular time, I was able to convey a good meaning of what leadership, and I've covered a lot of angles, and each one of those we can break down to a session itself. But determined, passion, you have to have values. Being able to listen to your team, understand what works for them and how they do, support them, build the training, give them the tools. When I go to a team, I don't follow what people tell me. I don't get tainted by someone's opinion about somebody on my team. So I join a company, I adopt a team, they give it to me. Okay, well, great. I become part of the team, and that's the other thing. So it's a pleasure to work with the team, but everybody is clean slate with me. I don't take what they did, what they didn't do, because of somebody's experience. I will give the opportunity to everyone. I set up the actual expectations. I will give them the tools, and then at the end of the day, it's on them. If they don't deliver, if they don't work out, that's on them. It's never on me. I sleep consciously and happily at night because I would not terminate somebody. I've always said this in interviews. Literally, I say, I terminate people, but I never fire someone. And people look at me like, was that the same thing? No. Termination is a process, basically separation. But I don't fire people. People, do that to themselves. Remember, you work for yourself. You don't work for me. You don't work for a company. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. I work with the company's resources for a company to help them grow. That's my venue. That's my conduit to actually deliver and help and flourish. But at the end of the day, when I do my stuff and I give everybody and the right opportunity, give them all the tools and show them and give them heads up, even if there is a layoff coming in, I try to, try to help people, move to different locations or other departments. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't matter. Again, it's not my company. Sometimes you have no choice. You get, a directive, we're going to cut down, a certain amount of employees. It's a very difficult thing. It's the most difficult thing for any leader to do when you work for a company, but it is something. Business is part of it. That's why, again, I said, if you earn your skills and stuff like that and you're actually marketable, you can go anywhere. It doesn't matter what happens. You're always going to, be on your feet. That's important. But again, it's doing the right thing, being there, give the autonomy and stuff. And, you do delegate as a leader, but you don't delegate a lot. You make sure that you actually balance it out. And you always at the helm and not in the back. You don't push people towards the actual cliff. You're in the front, to make sure that, they're not going to go to the cliff. So again, I'm trying to think what else I should be covering here in the interest of time. We got about 5 minutes. But so some of these things are very, 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 simple processes. But like I said, if you feel that you're a leader, some people come to you sometimes, they say, I want to be a manager. I want the next level. And I'll give you the example. When I went to get my first role as a manager, I was, declined that opportunity because they said, I was denied the opportunity because they said that I was not, ready for it. I was not organized enough. At least that's the excuse they gave me, which I worked on and moved on. But the fact is, they were not looking for a leader. They were looking for a manager. And that's the thing. I look for that. Even when I interview people for a management role, I don't look for them as a manager or a boss or someone's going to supervise the team. I want to see what they can do as a leader. What's their idea of putting a team, how they work with the team. Are they going to drive the team? Are they going to empower the team? Are they going to work with the team? Are they going to coach the team? Are they going to mentor the team? Are they going to train the team? Are they going to be there for the team? Supply everything for the team and make sure they zone in and only focus on what else. Are they going to drive and push the team? That's the other thing. It's not always to be, easy to be a leader. You got to push, and you got to push hard. And sometimes people may not like it, but you push to a degree. But, you push and you pull when you need to. It's a balance. You have to know when to push, when to stop, and so on. But at the end of the day, you obviously are leading people to success. You're leading an enterprise to success. You are responsible. Remember, accountability. So that is responsibility. And you're just, an integrity. You're not just going to drop because of this. And you have to set the parameter. That's why you also put your policies, and you have to make sure everybody's aware of everything so nobody can claim insanity or amnesia and say, oh, I don't know, I never, you train people, you document that, you make sure you coach them. But again, if you get beyond that and you get them into really, a hype and get them excited about, working with you in a team status, you will get the service. They will do whatever it takes to make it happen. They will drive business, to the best level. They will go beyond the Call of Duty. They work 7 days if they have to. I'm not promoting that, but the idea is people do it not because you ask them. They do it because they want to. And that's the other piece. You can never lead people if they don't want to follow. Okay? And you can never succeed without people. Your success is only is attached to everybody else. So for me, no leader succeeds without their team. And teams can succeed sometimes without leaders, but because if they have metrics and they're just going to meet them, they're going to meet them. But to get to the next level, you need the right leaders to drive, the whole company to the next level. But anybody, like sometimes like, oh, you did a great job. No, I never did a great job. Even when I interviewed today for my career path, whatever, I always give all the success, all the attribute, all these stuff. Yes, I do. I've driven this, I've given these results in the company, but it was not done by me alone. It's because I did this and this and this with my team, and my team was the one that actually helped me, supported us as a unit to actually get us to the next level. So again, those are very, 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 very deep concepts. It's important that actually, if you're out there in a leadership role, or you actually in a management role, or you're actually aspiring to become a manager, don't focus on being a manager, because you can learn those things. I mean, there are trainings to be managers, but I can train you to be a leader, and you might not be a leader, because it's also a drive. If you don't have the drive, you might not be able to do it. So those are all important things that you have to actually be aware of and be really focused on. But do whatever it takes to actually learn, to be better, to improve on your skills, to improve. And always remember, if you want to manage, if you want to lead, you need to be a team person. You want to accept, even your team will push back. Sometimes they will push back. Sometimes they're going to challenge you. That is allowable. If you're truly that you want to accept the challenge, and you throw the challenge back at them. I debate with these things, and you're never going to walk out of a debate where we're going to HR. No. you have the opinion. It's not about me. It's about if you can come up with a better idea, I'll take it. Your idea is better. Steve Jobs, I think, said it better. We don't hire people, that are intelligent to tell them what to do, but we hire them to tell us what we will do or what we should do. And again, with that being said, I will actually close this particular session and show. And hopefully, it was educational, informative, motivational. And to the next one. There will be many of those series of the quote, and ultimately also we'll be having additional the MCO world, and we'll bring in some more of the other chapters and sessions and series on board and reports and things like that. So with that being said, from the iHealth channel and iHealth Radio, thank you.